maybe once a month in all of the Lancer channels that I'm plugged into on social media, Discord and stuff, somebody pops up and they're like, hey, I'm a new Lancer game master. Love the game, love the lore, love all this stuff. I'm running a game for my players, but it's so complicated and the turns take so long. It's like too complex. You guys have any tips as to how to reduce the complexity and make the turns go faster? And sure enough, some people will chime in with like some great advice, like make sure that everybody knows what they're gonna do, make sure that everybody thinks ahead of time about what they do, make sure that everybody's like paying attention to the turn before, so that they're not like on their phone and then turn around to see a completely different thing, and they're like, oh, well that changes what I was gonna do, and now they have to sit there and figure it out, right? All of that is good advice. But what I like to do, and what I think a lot of other people end up doing, is you do a little forensic anthropology in there, and you say, tell me more about your game. So they start talking about their game, and they're like, yeah, we're doing this, it's like this, and like the bad guy's like Harrison Armory or whatever, blah, 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 and eventually it comes out that they started at license level 2. That is a number one mistake that new game masters make, is starting their game at a level higher than license level 0. Reason number one to start at license level 0, complexity. If you start at license level 2, you're going to be dealing with all the GMS stuff, 2 license levels, a new chassis with all that that entails, including things like armor and its like core power, but also you're going to have 5 talents at that point. 5 talents that you're going to have to know what they do, and talents are actually some of the more complex aspects of Lancer, because they actually are the core of a lot of builds, right? More so than the systems and the chassis. Talents are sort of where you hook your build onto, instead of walking into a game with only the GMS stuff to worry about and only 3 talents to worry about. You are now really multiplying that complexity significantly. You start at license level 2, are your turns taking too long? This is why. This is why that stuff is taking so long. It's because you have players that already have like 3 levels of Brawler and are trying to figure out how brawling dice works. It's too much. It's too much for your very first session of your very first game of Lancer. And I know what you're saying. I can handle it, right? And maybe you can, and maybe your group can. Maybe your group has like, you handed them the book and they like voraciously devoured all of the rules and all of the stats, and they're a bunch of like super duper gamers that are really good at mechanics, and that's fine. But you should still start at license level 0. And this is the second reason why. And probably the most important reason, I guess 1 is actually the most important reason, because that causes games to fall apart. Like that causes people to be like, I don't actually want to play this game, it's too complex. So okay, 1 is the one is the number 1 reason. This is the number 2 reason. Reason 2. So reason 2 is, so when you play role-playing games, right? Something like, let's just make it easy, say something like D&D. You're playing a ranger, your friend's playing a wizard. Chances are, as you're playing, you're going to discover things both about the system and about the ranger. And the things that you discover about the system, when you tell them to other players, it might or might not apply to their characters. Because chances are, you care about the rangery parts of the system. Then that knowledge is not like disseminated through the group, right? And then later on, someone else either does it wrong and you have to correct them, or rediscovers it where they didn't have to. They didn't have to spend the brain power because you already discovered it. And you told them about it, but they didn't care at the time. In Lancer, the important thing is, because everybody is going in and playing very similar characters to begin with, even though they do set themselves apart, those similarities are going to make it so that you collectively learn the system a little bit better. You don't have to worry about weird systems. You don't have to worry about teleports. Nobody can teleport right off the bat. You don't have to worry about like dice counters, like there are like things later on that have you like count on a die how things happen. You do not need to worry about any of that. All you have to worry about early on is learning the game, and if you're the game master, making sure that your players learn the game, and if you're a player, helping the other players learn the game. Most of the discoveries that you're going to make at license level 0 and 1 are going to be about the system, and system discoveries help everyone. Whereas if you start out at license level 2, a lot of the discoveries you're going to be making, you're going to be very focused on what your mech can do. And then you're going to skip over a lot of those system discoveries, which are then going to cause gaps in your knowledge. And I know that you said that you're like super good at this or whatever, but you can't remember everything about a game at all times if you don't play it, right? It's not until you play it that you realize how important certain things are, you realize how important certain things aren't that you thought were important. This isn't D&D, right? In a lot of D&D systems, your character doesn't get good until level 3 because they have to account for multi-classing. In Lancer, multi-classing works right off the bat, right? You can take license levels from any mech, and generally speaking, it's all going to work pretty well. So there's no reason to have dead levels. People think of level 1 and 2 and 3 in Dungeons & Dragons, and probably in the original Pathfinder. Not so much in Pathfinder 2, I think they kind of fixed that. But people think about those first, second, third levels as like dead levels. Levels where your character is like extremely physically vulnerable to dying, and also don't have any of the things that make them good at what they're supposed to be good at. Like, you're a ranger that's not good at tracking, you're a wizard that has like 2 spells. Those early levels are almost painful to play. That's not true in Lancer. In Lancer, you can jump in and you can run an encounter right out of the book at first level, and characters are survivable, but not overpowered. I'm just saying, try it out. Your players don't know, right? If your players are like most of the players I know, if you want to run Lancer, you're like, hey, I'm going to run Lancer, you want to play? And they're like, sure. And they like skim the book and they don't know any of the rules to begin with or whatever. Your players don't know any better. They don't know. So just run them at license level 0. That's my fervent plea to you. New game masters, do not start above license level 0. Give your game the benefit of starting at low level. This one was a little bit different one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my Patreon. I've been posting videos early there. Last video posted almost a whole week early. So patrons were able to see that. Thanks so much for watching. I'm having a good time making these, and I'll catch you later. Bye.